Welcome to the Let's Get Vulnerable podcast. It's your host, Dr. Morgan, and today's episode is a good one. We are going to get into securely attached communication. This is the kind of communication that we all want to have with our partners. I'm going to explore what does it look like in practice? What does that even mean? Securely attached communication. And then we're going to look into kind of what gets in the way. What are some of the factors that can prevent you from being able to communicate that way? And then I also had some amazing questions from the audience that got submitted. I posted a story on Instagram and asked you all your questions. And right away, there were so many that came in. So I picked the best submissions and I'm going to answer those questions. So this will be a really great deep dive on how to communicate in a securely attached way. And hopefully, this is an episode that you can share with people, maybe the person you're dating. You're like, hint, hint, I want to work on our communication. Go listen to this episode from Dr. Morgan. I know that this one's going to be super helpful. Before I get too into it, I want to let you know that it's August. It's my birthday month. I'm turning 35. I'm so excited about it. I will be going to look at wedding venues this month. I have all these amazing things going on in my life. And I thought about what can I do that's really special for this community during the month of August to give back. And of course, I decided I want to host a live 3-day challenge. I've done this challenge, and every time we do it, people love it. It changes people's lives. All you have to do to sign up is go to the link in the show notes. It's super easy to do. It takes 2 seconds. And I want to tell you this is 3 days of live coaching from me. Yes, you get to come live on Zoom. And it's so much better if you can carve the time out to be there live. But don't worry if you're like, oh my gosh, my work schedule's crazy, I'm traveling. You will get the replay. Although I highly, highly, highly encourage you to come live. This is the Move to Secure Attachment Challenge. This is 3 days dedicated to helping you heal and rewire your belief system and learn how to embody a secure attachment style. So go use the link in the show notes, sign up. These spots go quickly. Last time we did this in February, it went so fast. I was shocked. So please, if you're like, oh, I think that sounds good, don't wait. Go sign up now because we do have a limited number of seats on Zoom and I don't want you to miss out. So go use the link in the show notes and sign up. Okay. Securely attached communication. Have you ever been in one of those moments where you feel like a deer in the headlights? You're frozen. You're trying to have a conversation with your partner, but your stomach is in knots. Maybe you feel like you can't breathe. Maybe you feel like you're going to vomit. And the words do not come out, right? Or maybe you experience having the words come out, but as soon as the words start coming out, the tears start coming down, your heart's racing, and you get completely dysregulated in the moment. And that is equally as frustrating where you're trying to communicate, the words are coming out, but it's not coming out in the way that you would want it to. I just want you to know, I totally get it. I've been there. I've had seasons of my life where I simply could not communicate how I felt in relationships because fear of abandonment, right? A dysregulated nervous system. And it caused me so much pain and struggle and fear in my relationships. So, communication, your ability to show up and communicate in a securely attached way, I think of that as the tip of the iceberg of what's really going on. Securely attached communication, when you're able to directly express your needs, your wants, your emotions. You're showing up as your authentic self. You're not filtering yourself. You're not walking on eggshells. You're simply communicating the way you would to a best friend, to a loving family member. You're communicating with ease, with flow, and you're connected to your authentic self. You know what your emotions are. You know what your needs are. You know what your boundaries are. And what's going on internally is getting expressed outwardly, right? To be able to have that, that is the tip of the iceberg, because that is the product of a secure attachment style, healthy beliefs about yourself and about relationships, high self-worth, and a regulated nervous system. Otherwise, if communication was as easy as, oh, hey, here's this framework, all you have to do is A, B, C, use I statements, say this. If that's all it was, we'd have so many people who were better at communicating. But the reality is that communication is not just communication. It's all those things I just mentioned that impact how we show up in the world and how we show up in our relationships. So I think so many people kind of make the mistake of beating themselves up for the way that they're communicating, and they go, I should just communicate better. I really need to learn how to communicate. And I can tell you, it's actually not about that. It's about all those other things. So, what are these factors? We're diving into it. What are these factors that impact how we communicate? I just named them. I want to start with a dysregulated nervous system. So, the health of your nervous system. I think this has become a lot more common knowledge recently, but just in case you're like, what does that mean? I want you to understand or have a review of the autonomic nervous system. This is the nervous system that is under the PNS, so the peripheral nervous system. It's within the PNS, and it operates mostly unconsciously, and it's controlling our essential functions like heart rate, digestion, respiratory rate, and of course, our fight or flight response in stressful situations. So, what happens is when you have a perceived danger, right? There's a threat. The autonomic nervous system is designed to protect us from harm. And when triggered, it leads to physiological changes like increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure, sharpened mental focus, and everything that happens in our body to get us to react, right? This response is vital for survival, right? We need this response for survival. Back in prehistoric times when we were being chased by the saber-toothed tigers, we needed that response. But now in our modern day world, we have so many people who have a dysregulated nervous system, meaning their ANS is on constant alert. They're constantly in fight or flight mode. And this has a huge impact on our health and well-being and our relationships, right? This can be the underlying cause to so many things, such as chronic stress and anxiety, burnout, chronic fatigue, all of these things that we experience, and including unhealthy relationships, toxic relationships. One thing that is so important to realize is if you are feeling constantly on edge, you're feeling irritable, you're feeling overly reactive, you have chronic fatigue, you're highly sensitive to stimuli, maybe you are not able to pay attention very well, you have concentration issues, you have issues sleeping, and maybe you're highly sensitive to other people's emotional states. All of these things are signs of a dysregulated nervous system. So when you think about how does this impact our relationships, right? Now that we did kind of a review of what does it mean, how does it impact our relationships? Well, let's say you're going into that conversation with your partner, you're trying to set a boundary. Maybe it's that, hey, you go to yoga on Thursday nights, you need that time for you. It's really important. They had invited you to a date night, but you can't make it. So you're going into that conversation. But let's say you have a dysregulated nervous system. You're in that fight or flight mode. What if your brain is telling yourself the story that, oh, I'm going to be abandoned if I set this boundary. My partner's not going to like this. I'm going to be abandoned. This relationship's going to end. Remember, your brain is in survival mode when you're in fight or flight mode. So you're thinking about threats to your well-being. You're on high alert for threats. So your brain's telling yourself all these stories, right? And what happens is it prevents you from showing up in a way that's based in reality, from showing up in a way that can be attuned to your partner. If I have a dysregulated nervous system, I'm going to really struggle to tune into what my partner is feeling. I'm in fight or flight mode, right? I don't have emotional capacity to tune in to my partner. And also, it's more likely too that I'm just not going to be able to express myself at all, right? I'm focused on survival. So realizing that a dysregulated nervous system really, really impacts our capacity to be able to communicate. Okay, I want to move on. I want to talk about the next factor. What else impacts our ability to communicate in a securely attached way? And that is having an insecure attachment style. So this could be anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, any of the three. And disorganized is simply traits of anxious and avoidant happening at the same time. So with an insecure attachment style, I have a dysregulated nervous system. That's part of it. And I also have models of relationships where I'm anticipating fear, I'm anticipating being abandoned, or if I'm avoidantly attached, I'm anticipating that my needs are not going to be met and I need to take care of myself and I'm hyper independent, right? I have all of these beliefs about relationships that are impacting how I show up. And with insecure attachment as well, there's a discrepancy between reality and what the story is in your head about what's going on in the relationship. So for example, let's do another communication example because I think it's helpful to put it into practice. So what would happen if we have somebody with an anxious attachment style and somebody with an avoidant attachment style and they're having a conversation, and let's say the person with anxious attachment is communicating and saying, "Hey, you haven't asked me out on a date. We went out 10 days ago. I thought we had a great time and we haven't been on a date yet." What is that person with anxious attachment thinking? They're not interested in me. I'm going to be abandoned. And they are probably also devaluing themselves and thinking, there's something wrong with me. There's something they don't like about me, right? So they're spiraling in that way. And then what is the person with avoidant attachment thinking? They're going, okay, this person is desiring closeness. And this is unconscious, right? So a lot of times you're not aware that this is what they're thinking. This person's desiring closeness. I have fears of intimacy. I don't know that I can do a close relationship. It feels easier for me to withdraw and to not respond. If I say something that they don't like, they may get frustrated with me, and I have a low tolerance for emotional expression. So it's just easier for me to pull away, distance myself, and not engage. So notice how we have two separate stories about what's going on, and they're both not really rooted in reality. So the way that the communication is getting expressed With anxious attachment, it's that, okay, I need reassurance. I want to know that you want to do this. I want to know that you're into me. With avoidant attachment, it's that distancing that's coming up. It's that pulling away, right? Going back to hyper independence because that's what is comfortable. The way that communication is manifesting is not necessarily rooted in the reality of the situation. It's two people's attachment styles, and the communication is simply a representation of the models that both people have for relationships. Whereas if we have secure attachments, and I'm going into a little bit about what is secure attachment. With secure attachment, we are able to have high self-worth. So I'm not making up any stories about my worthiness based on how somebody responds to me. And we're able to be in reality, and we're able to believe that, hey, my needs are valid and the other person's needs are valid. So I'm tuned into myself and I'm tuned into the other person. And we're also in this place of not needing the relationship to work. We're not putting so much pressure on it because we do have a great relationship with ourselves. And we know that, hey, there's an abundance of people that would love to be in a relationship with me. So the way that we show up is based in reality, right? Instead of relational trauma, instead of a nervous system that's in fight or flight mode. So if I have secure attachment and it's been 10 days since I went on a date, I'm much more likely to have a story like, that's so odd. I had a great date with that person and I haven't heard from them. I wonder what happened. I wonder what came up, right? I wonder if maybe they've been busy at work. We're open to all the possibilities. We also know, maybe it is that they're not interested in me. We acknowledge all the possibilities, but we're not telling a fantasy story about what it is. Okay. And with secure attachment, we're much more likely, like, what does the communication look like? It's probably something playful. It's something casual. I'll tell you this, it's not a long text message. Speaking from past experience of, hey, I was the girl where you either got one line from me if I was in my avoidant attachment or I didn't respond at all, or you would get paragraphs, right? So the securely attached person, they're not doing the one-liner. They're certainly not doing the paragraphs. They're going to say something like, hey, I had a great time with you and I noticed I just haven't heard from you. Everything good? I mean, something like that, right? They're going to point out the facts. They're going to be a bit vulnerable because they're willing to be vulnerable. They value connection. They know that to connect, I have to be vulnerable. But they're just going to be casual and open and direct. So our attachment style has a huge impact on our communication. And part of the reason is because of the stories that we start telling ourselves about what's happening in the relationship, that is really based off of our models about what a relationship is. And I can already hear the questions. People are saying, but what if you're communicating secure and the person is avoidant? Great question. So if you're showing up secure and the person is avoidant, then what happens is you're going to get the data more quickly. You're not going to join in the dance because the relationship doesn't match up with what you want. So you're going to gather the data. You're going to realize, oh, this person doesn't desire the same level of intimacy that I do. They don't want to build the same kind of relationship as me. And you're just going to end the connection and you're going to experience way less pain in the process. So that's how someone with secure would approach that. Moving on. So we talked about attachment styles. We talked about your nervous system. What else gets in the way when it comes to securely attached communication? And it's belief systems, which overlaps with attachment styles and a dysregulated nervous system. But I felt like this deserved its own category. And this is where you have beliefs about what's going to happen in the relationship. You have beliefs about your own worthiness. So many of you unconsciously, you may not even be aware of this, you have deeply rooted beliefs that you are not enough, that you will always be abandoned, that relationships never work out for you, that healthy love is available to other people, but it's not available to you. You can see Cassie on Instagram go have a perfect marriage and have a beautiful wedding and travel to Europe with her husband, but you go, that's not available to me. Right? Like, so many of you have terrible belief systems about relationships and about what you are deserving of. And I get a little emotional thinking about it because I know it's a lot of people. And I know that was also me in the past. And when it's unconscious, you don't even realize how impactful it is, right? And there's, of course, those of you that have had a lot of relational trauma. You've experienced pain and heartbreak and infidelity and so many relationships that you wanted to have work out that didn't. And then you develop beliefs like all the good ones are gone, all men are the same, or all women are the same, everybody cheats on me, no one is emotionally available. You start to develop these beliefs about the dating pool and about what's available to you. And I can tell you that those also really impact your ability to communicate. Because think about this. What's going to happen if I'm dating someone new and I'll just do the heterosexual, let's say I'm a woman and I'm dating a new guy, okay? I'm dating a new guy and my beliefs are all men cheat. Men are going to hide their phones. They're going to put their phone screens down because they're talking to all these women in their DMs. Better not let them go on a bachelor party because as soon as they can, they're going to cheat on you. Like all men are liars and cheaters. And what's going to happen if I enter into a relationship with a new man? And that's the belief that I have. Let me tell you, it is an energy. Did you know that 90% of communication is nonverbal? It's not even the words that you're saying. It's your body language. It's your ability to have an openness in your body language. When we're secure, we're open to connection. What kind of communication am I going to have with someone if I have those beliefs that all men cheat? I'm going to be very non-trusting. I'm going to be judgmental. I might even be hypercritical. I might be showing up with some avoidance strategies. I may be devaluing the person, trying to distance myself. I'm looking for things that are wrong with them. And all of this communication is coming out of what? Protection, right? Because I have these beliefs, these deeply ingrained beliefs that all men are a certain way. So my communication, how I'm showing up, I'm just trying to protect myself. But I can tell you this, that kind of communication is going to keep you stuck. It's going to keep you repelling the right people and engaging with the people that actually fit that model, right? So I've been thinking a lot about this, and this is something that I say a lot. I actually have it written on my vision board. I have it written in different notebooks. But remember, we attract who we are being, not what we want. We attract who we are being, not what we want. This is why I emphasize do the internal work, become securely attached. Do you want to have a healthy, securely attached relationship? Become securely attached yourself. Develop healthy belief systems. That is a communication that is felt. When I know my value, when I trust myself, when I know that I can keep myself safe, okay, by having healthy communication and setting boundaries and making sure that my needs and my emotions are expressed, right? I know I can keep myself safe when I'm securely attached. So then that allows me to communicate in a securely attached, open, loving way. And I can attract who I am being. I can attract those kinds of partners who, of course, want to value me, who want to help me feel safe and help me be emotionally safe. And partners where, of course, there's not that need for hypervigilance and for being critical and for lack of trust. With secure attachment, we have this energy of course, I trust you. It's that energy of I trust you until I don't, right? I'm going to lead with trust and then I'm going to verify. I'm going to lead with trust and then I'm going to verify. So I think what we don't realize is that communication, like I said, 90% nonverbal, and that when you have a broken belief system about relationships, you are communicating in ways that repel the right people. Ask me how I know this. Ask me how. Decades, okay, not decades, a decade of dating. I feel like sometimes I think I'm like 70, you guys. I'll be like, decades. I'm 35. Okay. But it was about over a decade of dating where I was repelling the right people because of my beliefs about relationships. And it's unconscious. It's unconscious. It's not like you're intentionally doing it. I know you're not intentionally doing it. Neither was I. But then just realizing these things have to change. So let's review what we've talked about so far. Your nervous system, your attachment style, and your beliefs. Nervous system, attachment style, beliefs. Those things have to change in order to have securely attached communication. Okay. So I hope that this was helpful. I feel like we went a little bit deep there, giving you some examples, some things to think about. Obviously, if this resonated with you and you're like, Dr. Morgan, let's go. I'm ready to become securely attached. I'm done with the games. I want to invite you, go apply to the Empowered, Secure, Loved program. This has helped we're almost at over 700 women who have gone through this program, radically transform their lives, become securely attached, and now effortlessly attracted the kind of partner that they've always wanted. And it wasn't that they had to try harder, they had to learn the tips and tricks and this texting sequence to get him to text you back. I'm like so tired of all the BS I see online. It was none of that. It was about doing the internal work to become securely attached. Okay. So if you're ready to do that and you're just done with the situationships, done with the on again, off again, done with wasting your time on the wrong people, go apply to the program using the link in the show notes. And I want to wrap up this episode by answering your questions because, like I said, there were some really good questions that got submitted when I threw this up on my IG stories. So let's go. Let's do it. I picked some out here. All right. So the first one was, how do you express yourself without crying? How can I stay calm in conflict? So this is a lot about nervous system regulation because it's not like you're intentionally crying, but it's your body being in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode, your autonomic nervous system being dysregulated. And you're going into this place where conflict equals, it can feel like death for a lot of us because abandonment equals death. Don't ask me why, but that's what our brains do. And it does make sense if you think back to evolutionary psychology and how we develop. If we're abandoned by our tribe, that means that we can die. Also back to childhood experiences, being abandoned by caregivers, that is death, right? So you probably have associations of conflict equals abandonment, abandonment equals death, just to put it very bluntly. And what I would say is there's a lot there. Of course, there's learning how to regulate your nervous system, learning how to practice self-soothing. For people who are falling apart when you're communicating to a partner, I would encourage you practice expressing what you need to express ahead of time and self-soothing. So working on how do I show up for myself as my ideal parent? What are the words that I need to hear? Can I over validate what it is that I'm feeling so that then when I go to my partner, I know, well, hey, I've got my back. I validated what I'm feeling. I've shown up for myself. And now that I've processed it myself, I'm letting my partner in on this is what I processed and this is where I'm at. So I would try that out. I'm going to give you a cheat code. It also helps to have a wonderful, emotionally available partner who, when you are upset, when you're communicating, they hold your hand. They ask you, what do you need? How can I help you regulate your emotions? Like in building a securely attached relationship, I just want you to know, like, the right person, even if you have a dysregulated nervous system, even if you're having a moment of, wow, I reverted back to my anxious attachment tendencies, like, they're going to show up and they're going to do their end of the work to bring the relationship back to secure. I always tell my clients, like, hey, let's give ourselves the very best chance at having a healthy relationship by becoming securely attached, okay? But that doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. Even if you have those moments of, wow, I regressed, I became anxiously attached, you want to have a partner that says, hey, what can I do to help us get back to a secure place? So the cheat code there is, yeah, self-soothing, but then also having a partner that if you are falling apart, they're not judging you, they're not running away, they're not shutting down, they're not going, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Ah, right? Like they're saying, "Oh my gosh, I can tell this is really hard for you. I can tell you have a lot of emotions about this. How can I support you? What do you need from me?" They're giving you a hug. They're helping you. They're co-regulating with you. But obviously, the more that you can become secure and you can regulate yourself, the easier it's going to be for a partner to step in and help you co-regulate. Okay, long answer, great question. Next question is, oh boy, how can you reach an avoidantly attached person? So I think, well, it says how you can reach through communication to an avoidantly attached person. So I think the question is, how do you communicate to an avoidantly attached person and have them hear you? And here's what I want to say. As someone who's dated a lot of avoidantly attached people in my 20s, what I can tell you is you want to show up as securely attached as possible. Remember, I talked about secure attachment is grounded in reality. Stay grounded in reality. And you want to be able to communicate openly, honestly, directly. And what I would say is this: I don't want you thinking, how do I change myself and communicate in a way that makes an avoidantly attached person stay with me? To me, that's heartbreaking. And I know a lot of people that have done that, myself in the past included. Instead, I want you thinking about what happens when I show up as securely attached as possible. I communicate from a reality-based place. I communicate openly, honestly, directly. If I do those things, does this relationship become the kind of relationship I want? Is it securely attached enough where it's a healthy, close relationship? Can it give me the amount of intimacy and closeness and emotional safety that I truly desire in a relationship? And if you experiment, right? You're a love scientist. You know, I always talk about this. You're a love scientist. And if you're doing all those things But then you're asking yourself those questions and you're noticing, no, this is not the kind of relationship I want. It's not emotionally close enough. It's not emotionally safe enough. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. I don't feel like my partner is curious about my day or how I'm feeling or what I want. And I feel disconnected the majority of the time. Then I would tell you, you deserve to have the kind of relationship where the emotional safety and the intimacy and the closeness is there. You deserve it. And before you go end the relationship, I think it's a wonderful thing to express those needs directly and invite the avoidantly attached person to do some work and to learn how to open up and to learn how to express themselves more directly, right? It's a beautiful thing to do that. So I'm not saying, oh, break up with them, but I'm saying if after you've done that and you've gathered some data on the relationship and it's still not meeting your needs, then you deserve to have a relationship that's emotionally available and you can leave that relationship. Okay, that's my long answer. The next question. Okay, so this is about how do you communicate to a guy about his female friendships or if he's staying connected with an ex? Great question. Okay. So some people would be totally fine with this and they don't need to have a ton of communication about it. And I know some of you listening are like, what? And then other people, and there's so many reasons why, maybe it's past experiences, attachment style, beliefs, all the things, right? There's so many reasons why you can feel very differently about this topic. But the reality is that if your partner is going to be friends with females, going to have, female friendships, or they're going to be friends with their ex, if your partner is going to have those kinds of relationships, you need to get clear on what does the relationship need to maintain secure attachment. To put it another way, what kind of boundaries and what kind of reassurance do you need in order to still feel securely attached? So if my partner is going to be friends with his ex, maybe, especially in the beginning, because I want you to realize this, early stages of dating, you need more reassurance. So if I'm in the early stages of dating and my partner is telling me that they're friends with their ex-girlfriend, I might need more reassurance. I might need to say, oh, is it okay if you let me know when you're texting her? Is it okay if we go on a a date and we invite her and another friend because I want to meet her? You just get to ask yourself, what kind of reassurance do I need in order to create secure attachment in the relationship? Remember, in healthy relationships, it comes back to how do we create secure attachment, right? And reassurance is required to create secure attachment. And everyone will be different on how much reassurance they need when it comes to this topic. The other thing I would say is that you might be someone where you can't have enough reassurance when it comes to this. You might go, I can't be with someone who's friends with their ex. And that's okay. If that's where you are, that's okay. It's better to be honest about that early on. And all you have to do is let your partner know that. And then it's a conversation of, hey, I can't get to a secure place if this is happening. Either we have to end the relationship or this has to stop, right? And I think sometimes we're afraid to have those conversations, but you need to realize you're not going to be happy. It's not going to be a healthy relationship if you can't create secure attachment. So if something's going on that would prevent you from it being secure, then you're better off moving on. Okay, final question. Okay, this question says, how to recover when there's been repeated explosive communication from a partner? Ooh, how do you recover when there's been repeated explosive communication from a partner? If this is the case, you need a lot of repair. You need a structure. You need a framework. I teach this to our clients inside of the Empowered Secure Love program. I have a framework called Dialogue, and you need to have really clear structure and boundaries on how you navigate conflict. And you need to go through that structure over and over. You need to be able to go through conflict without having the explosive yelling, right? Or explosive communication. So you need to have reparative experiences over and over and over and over in order to heal. And I can tell you this, that it's no way to go through a relationship to be afraid of conflict, because conflict always happens. It's part of being close to someone. If we have conflict, that means we're close. If we don't have conflict, probably means there's a lot of distance and distancing and disconnection in the relationship. So it's the kind of conflict that you have, right? And to have securely attached conflict means we can both respect each other. We're not degrading each other. We're not saying any negative comments. Both people feel emotionally safe. Even if we get emotionally dysregulated, we can help each other come back to a regulated place, right? Like healthy conflict is part of a securely attached relationship. But then if you can't have healthy conflict, either the relationship's going to get so damaged that nothing can repair it, or the conflict stops and you have a ton of resentment and distance and the relationship dies. So if you can't have healthy conflict, the relationship's going to die one way or another. And I think it's just really important to realize that you have to have healthy conflict, because conflict's going to happen. Okay, I lied. There's one more question. How much should we share about our past with our partner? I forgot I wanted to answer that one. So, such a good question. How much should we share about our past? I want you to know this. Your past is your past. You are under no obligation to share it with your partner. Now, when you're building secure attachment, people have different needs around what they want to know. So your partner has different needs around what would help them with reassurance in order to feel secure. And you have different needs around what you feel like you need to share so that they are aware of your triggers and things that have happened to you. Because by them being aware of that, it can help you create secure attachment. So I really believe in not talking about our past early on. I think that when we do that, it really muddies the water, and it really prevents us from just seeing like what's here between me and this person without bringing any of my past or any of my other experiences or my relational trauma. I don't want to bring any of that into this new connection. I don't want to muddy the water. I just want to see what is here between me and this person. So I'm a huge fan of waiting to talk about your past. And I think what I've learned in my long-term relationship is always share with consent of, hey, wow, there was something that I thought of the other day. It was something I went through with an ex-boyfriend that was really hard and it was coming up for me. Can I share it with you? And they may say no. And you have to be okay with your partner not being ready to hear about your past. So share about your past with consent. And then when it comes to you hearing about your partner's past, same thing. Be willing to check in and say, wow, I don't actually want to know. I don't need to know. Or vice versa. I do need to know. This is something I want to know about. Maybe it's your partner keeps getting triggered about you planning a vacation and you're just curious, where does that come from? And in that conversation, you realize, oh, this is about something from a past relationship. And you realize they need to share it with you because it's informing how they're showing up in your current relationship. And then in that case, you go, okay, I need to hear this. But I'm a huge fan of your past is your past. And how you tell the narrative matters. How you tell the narrative matters. Because a lot of us, we have so much shame and we blame ourselves for so much. And there's all this drama and trauma that is wrapped up in our past relationships, speaking from experience. And when we tell these past experiences, we can make them out to be this horrible narrative and things that we did wrong and things that they did wrong. And honestly, your relationship just doesn't need that. It doesn't need that past trauma. Like most of our past relationship experiences would be better shared with a friend, with a therapist. Okay. So really think about when you're sharing your past with your partner, how can I be intentional? Does it help us build secure attachment? If not, I wouldn't share it. That's my take on it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was a juicy one. We got into all kinds of topics. I hope that this helps you in your journey to communicating in a securely attached way. You're so deserving of secure attachment. And of course, as always, I'm wishing you high self-worth and great relationships. I'll talk to you soon.